Hi, welcome to the Your Plate podcast. This is a conversation between Maya, a positive psychology practitioner and an executive coach, and myself, Arti. I'm a nutritional therapist. So the theme for February is relationships. Now, when we're talking about relationships, we're not just talking about the person that you love, but this is all the important relationships that are in your life. It could be, your relationships with friends and family, work relationships, and even the relationships you may have with your community. And what we're going to start off with is the importance of touch in relationships. And it's something that's actually quite undervalued. And when we talk about touch, we're talking about hugging and maybe something that's a bit more structured. And it might be, massage or that physical connection you have with those that you love. But it actually might even be kind of the way that you might shake someone's hand when you meet them. So it may even be strangers. So it's just that concept of physical contact, probably something you've probably not given it much thought to, actually. But it was fascinating to research around this subject and actually realize how important for both physical and your emotional well-being the concept of touch is. And Dr. Rangan Chatterjee is a great advocate and a great proponent for the importance of touch and how, as society has moved into this digital era, we've lost that capacity to have that physical connection with others. And so I thought we would kick off with a few really interesting scientific facts around touch and the positive benefits of touch. So one of the things that I was unaware of is biological necessity. And there have been some really interesting studies to prove why it is a biological necessity. So for example, babies that are not touched as much. So they used the case during the era of the orphanages in Romania. Those children who were in orphanages, they were fed and watered. So they were kind of physically sustained with basics, but they were kept in their cots and they were rarely picked up or touched by carers or people that could give them some physical affection. And it was shown that their development was significantly hindered because of that lack of physical affection, which is really, really sad. So that was, one study. And there's also been another really interesting study at UCL where they conducted a research study around human touch. And what they found is how it physiologically lowered people's heart rate. And that had the corresponding impact of lowering their blood pressure. And through that, the calming effect of touch. So if you're in a stress state or concerned, just the simple act of somebody consoling you or maybe even just touching you on your shoulder. So what they found is that the human body has a lot of receptors on the shoulder area and the back. And actually, if you think, it's quite a natural thing when you are not necessarily concerned, but even when you greet someone, you might just touch them on the shoulder and the back. And it's actually that physical connection. Your body responds in a very sensitized way to that kind of touch.
Wow. And I'm just going to jump in there.
Yes.
So definitely I have found since having kids who are very much kind of all over you all the time.
Tactile children that like touch.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, isn't everyone naturally kind of born that way? I don't know. But I definitely find my time in the company of children very relaxing for that reason, because I love all that physical contact. And especially my younger one is the ultimate. I don't mean this to be sort of derogatory to him, but he's a bit like the family dog because he's just so cuddly. And you can tell that when he kind of nestles himself on you for that hug, it's very kind of soothing for him, and that energy is also really, really nice to receive back. And so I've definitely become I really enjoy that aspect of family life and that feeling that they kind of always want a piece of you, but I quite like that.
Yeah, cuddle times are so special. I mean, sometimes do your children kind of say, oh, I need a cuddle? Yeah. And not just when they've had themselves, but just sometimes, I don't know, if something's upset them, they'll just be like, oh, mummy, can I have a cuddle? And that's lovely. It just shows that there's that almost, I don't know if it's a primitive instinct, but one would think that it is a primitive instinct. It's what gives a child that security. Yeah. That physical touch gives them that sense of security, comfort, love. And I certainly agree with you, like cuddling the kids can be just, there's no price can be put on it really.
Well, so I've actually, with my son who's behaviorally, like he hits and things like that, the hugging has been a very important kind of counter thing to that. Counterbalancing to that. So both in the kind of nursery school environment, I did have to ask, okay, so he's been sort of, his behavior hasn't been great. Is he getting hugs? And actually that bit was a really important step that was kind of being missed out a little bit when he moved schools. So, and then the other one is that I reached out to a lovely coach via Instagram, actually, because she was talking about sibling tensions and things like that. And because my son was hitting my daughter. And I asked, what should I say? And she said, I just say to him, what do you want? Her name is Coach Kimades.
Right.
And she said that simple question. And I've asked him that. And he just says, I want a hug. I want a hug. And so we do give him a lot of hugs, but just the fact that he's verbalizing it.
That is so, just that one question.
Exactly, because you and I have both discussed this issue that we've have
both
with our younger sons.
They're similar age, aren't
they?
And
it's just, what do you do? And, we try and take all the positive approaches, but yet you'll still find, especially in the Christmas holidays, obviously they're spending a lot of time together. And it's not going to happen overnight, is it? It's not just so that I know what he wants. It's so that he knows what he wants. So I thought that was quite a powerful thing. And so for us, his behaviour and the physical affection are both very, very sort of two sides of one coin.
Yes, yeah. It can be almost releasing their need through anger.
Yeah.
And one of the things when I read books around child development is labeling those emotions and them understanding, like, what is frustration? Are you frustrated? Are you tired? And recognizing what those emotions feel like.
Yeah.
And then as grown up, and as their parents, to label those emotions so they start to understand those emotions. And then once they've identified them, it helps them to understand them. And then you can progress to the next steps, be it, I need a hug, or I'm tired, therefore can I just have some downtime and chill out? Quite interesting to hear about that.
Yeah, so definitely I think this sort of small kids element is extremely valuable in that process.
Yeah. The other really important physiological aspects of touch are the feel-good hormones that they release. So we've both pointed out how our children want hugs. We really enjoy that time. And the feel-good hormones are, the serotonin hormones, the happy hormones, oxytocin, which are the bonding hormones. Those are really at play when you're a new mum and the child, so that bonding, and even around breastfeeding or whatever it might be, or even just cuddling your child if you're not breastfeeding. So oxytocin is one of those really powerful bonding hormones, and this is all of these come to the fore when you're physically affectionate with another individual, or it might not be an individual, it might even be a pet as well. And it was actually interesting, you mentioned you referred to him as the family pet, but as we know, pets can be a fundamental part of people's families. So that was that kind of nicely leads me on to another study that I was reading about, and it really made me smile. And this was dog mums that licked their puppies more. Those dogs seem to be able to cope in stressful situations a lot better. Wow. So when they were in a park, they were less aggressive with other dogs. And I just thought that was really, really sweet. That even transfers into the animal kingdom.
Yeah.
And it
also shows how instinctual it is, doesn't it?
Yes, exactly.
It's really,
and I'm sure we've seen it in the zoo, right? With like the gorilla kingdom, the gorillas with their baby gorillas and how they caress them and keep them close. So anyway, going off on a bit of a tangent. So it just kind of goes to show the powers of human touch. Now, one of the more formalized ways, if you want to call it that, is the power of massage. Personally, I absolutely love massages.
You said that you would get one every week.
Well,
if you could.
it's one of my aims in life to, if I could, have a massage every week, because it's probably one of my most favorite things to do and indulge myself in. And I think and I think it might be in the genes actually. So I'm very lucky. I have one surviving grandma, and she's 92 and she lives in Manchester, and I see her not enough, twice a year. When I go and visit her, the first thing she asks me to do, she's in pretty good health actually. She does suffer with arthritis, and she can't walk that well, but she's in pretty good health otherwise. But the first thing she asked me to do is to give her a massage. So she wants me to massage her hands because she really likes my hand massage. And I do it with a bit of cream. And then she likes me to massage her back with some Vicks or Tiger Balm. And even when my grandma used to stay with me, this was sort of 20 years ago, when she stayed with us, she used to make me walk on her back as a kind of massage. I don't know, I was obviously a lot lighter. I was probably about 12 or 13 at the time. And then when I was growing up, I used to suffer with quite bad headaches and migraines. And my late mother, who is a pharmacist, was also trained as a reflexologist. She really appreciated the power of touch and pressure points. So she would, when I'd have a headache, she would touch the pressure point which relieves headaches, which is on your big toe. So you press both your big toes together and you hold down the pressure. And also there's an area on your hand, the fleshy bit in between your thumb and your forefinger. And you can press that down and you sort of hold it down for 10 seconds, release, hold it down for 10 seconds. So that's actually quite relaxing, but it's also apparently a pressure point for the head as well.
Oh, wow.
So I've always appreciated the power of the healing power of touch.
Yeah.
And now in my life, I love going for a massage. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Yeah.
So
we love massage at home as well. And I probably would rather that my family massage me and that we massage each other. But I've always kind of stayed away from massage because if you had a bad massage experience, then it kind of puts you off. But when I really got into it was when I was having acupuncture, and the lady would always do some shiatsu massage before. And I remember like the first few times I went, and I just lay there, and the reason I'd gone to acupuncture is because I was just having such a tough time after the second baby and stuff. And I really felt like when she was doing that massage, I was like, oh, I'm being cared for. And it just felt really nice, like I was just being nurtured. And I hadn't really associated it with that kind of the power of touch. But her massage is really gentle, and she's like a really sensitive kind of person, very light touch. She's not going to really work into you or anything like that. So I found that a very, very nurturing massage. And then with the kids, we do after bath, whenever we have the time, we do massage. It's not as frequent recently as I would like, but get out the baby oil and all massage each other. And my daughter, actually, when I was first doing it to her, she was so tight, her legs were so tight that it really hurt. And I was kind of like, oh dear, because I'm hypermobile and I can get really tight in certain muscles, I was like, it's actually really important that I massage her because she does a lot of physical activity. And so there's obviously the physical benefit. And we have this term in Gujarati which is bug dabao, which is when
that's
what
my grandma used to ask me. That's my grandma used to ask me to do.
Well, that bug is feet, and dabao means basically press.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like a thing that you do. And I'd never really realized why. Like if your legs are aching, then you have your bug dabao. And actually, what that is doing is it's releasing all those tight muscles. And now we have a foam roller at home because you've got tight muscles. That's like the best way of doing it. But all of this it's actually really beneficial for your body as well, isn't
definitely.
it?
It's funny you talk about the foam roller. We've got about 3 different massage contraptions.
Devices.
We've got one that goes over the shoulders and does the shoulder area. Then we've got the handheld.
Is it automatic or is it?
No, it's automatic. They're like those
TENS machine.
No, it's a manual. The one where there's rollers inside. Then when you turn it on, the rollers will roll round.
Is it good?
Yeah, they're pretty good. Yeah, so there's that, and then we've got the manual one that you hold, which you can actually place that on anywhere on your body. And then I've actually gone through quite a few of those massage devices. You'll go to those home exhibition shows, and they're always, there's always a stand with chairs and some kind of electronic massager contraption, and you're so tired after walking around those shows that you end up buying them, and then they do a buy one get one free deal, and you're like, oh, I'll buy one for so and so or whatever. We've accumulated a lot of those over time.
Oh well, I guess it would be a good thing to just start using those more regularly.
I do. I try to when I'm watching TV. I'll sort of, because I find that my quads get quite tight.
Yeah.
So I get a lot of relief when I use those machines on my quads and even the back of the thighs, but it's harder to get the pressure on the back of your thighs when you're using those machines. And talking about children, what's interesting, talking about children, following on from what you were saying, is how effective massage can be with growing pains. Ooh. I don't know if when your child's growing, some children find that some of their joints are hurting because your bones are actually growing, and it tends to generally happen at night, the growth process. But you can get, especially teenagers, they find that they get pains in their longer bones, the thigh bones. So massage can be really effective for that. So that's a nice thing. And the other thing I find that can be really relaxing in the evenings for children is just massaging the forehead and the temples. That's very relaxing.
I've done that for them, yeah. Yes. And when you first have kids, and I went to like a baby massage, and I found that those principles for how you do the face, and obviously you being so gentle with the baby face, and I just found that those still are really successful on the kids, and they
definitely.
find they just love it. And I think it's such a lovely form of bonding with your children for you to massage them. And now my little son, he also then likes to massage back, and then so he'll be like massaging my husband, and then be like, so how was your day? And so he really sort of takes on this role of masseur.
How do they act while he's massaging?
Yeah, it's like he feels like he should be making conversation, like a masseur might make.
That is very special. So that is lovely. I need to train my 3-year-old. So I think I can have my weekly massage done by my 3-year-old.
Oh yeah, the other way he massages by hitting me. Oh, right. So he basically hits my back, and so it has its pros and cons. But anyway, but it's really nice to remember this very, like, it's a free tool basically, isn't it, that we all have for being able to be in more contact with each other. And I think it's a nice one for the family.
Yeah, lovely. I think it's a really, it's something like we said, it's undervalued, and I don't think we recognise the benefits enough about it. So hopefully through having listened to this conversation, you feel like, oh, actually, maybe we can get some form of touch and be a bit more physically affectionate with maybe family members. It may even be friends.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that in the
Give you a
British...
little squeeze.
Oh, right, yeah. I always feel, in the British culture, we're not so much into the kissing on both cheeks, although I feel like there is a bit more of that.
Yeah.
You go to Europe and people that you don't, if you're meeting a European, that's very much the norm to greet somebody.
And then you're increasing your physical contact with them, aren't you, by doing those?
Yeah. So I do think, actually, do you find that there's a lot more of that physical greeting in British compared to before? Because because we live in a bit more of a diverse culture, and you might be working alongside Europeans, French, Germans, and they can be a bit more physically affectionate when they meet you, or they're more likely to shake your hand, but then kind of come and greet. Do you have that physical embrace? Have you never noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, I have to say, going back to, I've not always been the most tactile, and I think often the vibe you give off other people, then
maybe.
So I'm actually going to embrace it. Yeah, a little bit. I probably, but for me, there's two things. One is that, I don't know, but there's a lot of talk around, having time for yourself and me time and, getting some solitude and some space. But actually, I'm much more for the be in physical contact with people now. And this is an extension of that, because I actually, and especially having read Lost Connections by Johann Hari, I think it's such a wake-up call in this modern age around how physically disconnected we are, and how much we spend less time in physical company of people.
Yes.
And now that I'm freelance and not kind of sitting down at a desk surrounded by my colleagues and things, I'm just so aware of that. So I definitely think that when you've got that awareness, you then naturally gravitate towards it. I want to make more of an effort with those around me for that physical contact.
Yeah, sure. And also I think, the digital era means that we feel like we are connected, because we are often always in touch with people, but sometimes nothing can take the place of
exactly. We're on our touch screens rather than touching each other.
A meeting with friends and have a face-to-face meet up, and now you might be less inclined because you think, oh well, actually I know what's going on in their lives because I read about them all day long on
and the final bit for me is around the as a coach, because a lot of my coaching is remote, and yet one of the big things that you learn when you're becoming a coach is the importance of all the non-verbal cues. And so for me personally, I'm quite cerebral, so I'm quite happy to have a conversation just about kind of my thoughts, and I've never felt it was that important to be in the physical contact with people. But from a coaching perspective, I do see that there is a huge benefit to being in the energy of somebody else. So I just have to balance that, because you were asking me earlier, is the answer then just video? And actually no, because yes, it's lovely to see somebody face to face, but sometimes the quality of the sound and visual is not consistent and good. So actually it would be much better to be just on the phone or call contact. In my case, I spend more time either doing physical sessions or phone sessions, and a bit less video. But I start with video so that we make sure, if we're not going to be able to meet physically for a while, that we've had that. But for the quality conversation where you're not worrying about whether they actually said this or that, or they broke up in the middle of something very important, it can
be frustrating and disruptive. Similarly with my consultations as well, I like to see a client where possible physically face to face at least once. And ideally, if every consultation can be face to face, but as we know, it's not always convenient, but at least once. And you just find that you've then, that connection seems a bit deeper when you've met that person face to face at least once. So I'm very big on face to face with my clients as well. I think it does make a difference. That's not to say that you can't have an effective consultation, but so I think we've covered the concept of touch and the benefits, and in our next episode we are going to be looking at friendships. So we look forward to hearing from you if you've got any feedback on relationships, and please subscribe to our podcast too.
And if we're getting some lovely messages from people, if you do enjoy our podcast, please do just leave the rating on there, because I've been slow to this party, but apparently the more of those you have, the more easy it is for people to find you. So please do leave a rating if you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you.